everyone. Today, let's talk about a story. This story comes from the Buddhist scripture, the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish, shared by the Buddhaghosa Association of Australia. You might think, wait, what does an ancient story have to do with me? But the principles of cause and effect karma within it might be much closer to our daily lives than we imagine. The core of this story asks a very deep question. If a person is at the absolute rock bottom suffering for an entire lifetime, can a single, simple and sincere thought truly have the power to change everything? Let's travel back to the time when the Buddha was still in the world. In a city called Shravasti, our protagonist's life was destined to be a tragedy from the very beginning. She was born into a family of the lowest social class. But that wasn't even the worst part. The most heartbreaking thing was that she was born with 18 terrifying and hideous physical deformities. Can you imagine? The first words this newborn baby heard were her own father's cold, heartless rejection. The first message she received upon entering this world was, "You should not exist." As you can guess, she had no childhood. Eventually, her parents drove her out of the house. From then on, the streets became her home. Severe leprosy, constant hunger, and public humiliation. This was her entire life. However, at this absolute nadir of despair, a seemingly minor encounter became the key to overturning her entire destiny. Look at how this turning point happened. First, Ananda, a disciple of the Buddha, saw how much this girl was suffering. Unlike most people who stayed as far away as possible, he felt deep compassion and approached her to offer care. Moreover, he didn't just offer sympathy. He guided her to a Buddhist stupa and gave her incense and oil so she could make an offering. Then came the most critical moment, as she made her offering with the most sincere heart. The Buddha himself sensed her devotion and appeared before her. Imagine the shock. In that instant, the joy and emotion she felt made her completely forget all her agony. She then did something extraordinary. She took off the only thing she owned, a filthy, tattered rag of a garment, and offered it as a gift. This was the first and last time in her life she had ever given something so purely. In that state of unprecedented joy and faith, she was filled with Dharma bliss. She then peacefully left this world. The suffering of her entire life came to a close at this spiritual peak. Is that the end of the story? Not yet. This is where it gets miraculous. Karma never misses an appointment. That sincere, virtuous thought at the moment of her death opened a brand new, mysterious chapter for her. The contrast was incredibly stark. In her next life, she was born into a wealthy merchant family. In her previous life, she had 18 ugly deformities. In this life, not only was she beautiful, but her skin radiated a golden glow. Thus, her name was Kanaka Golden. She went from a discarded, starving beggar to a beloved treasure in her household. It was truly the difference between heaven and hell. Most importantly, she eventually became a practitioner and attained the highest stage of realization, the arhat. Even more amazing is that she seemed to bring that virtuous thought from her past life with her. At only 7 years old, she voluntarily asked to become a nun. She progressed so rapidly in her practice that she soon achieved arhatship, meaning she was completely liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Hearing this, a question must have popped into your head. If a single sincere offering could bring such immense blessings, why was her first life so miserable? What was the cause of that tragic fate? The Buddha explained this to everyone, peeling back the layers of time to reveal an even earlier connection. It turns out this was a story spanning 3 lifetimes. Long, long ago, during the era of Kashyapa Buddha, she had also been a nun. However, at that time, she had a difficult personality. She was arrogant and had a very poisonous tongue. She frequently insulted other practitioners, calling them low-born or ugly wretches. This is where the root of the problem lay. This is a direct example of the law of karma. What you sow is what you reap. She used her mouth to humiliate others, calling them ugly and low. Eventually, those humiliations returned to her, manifesting as her own deformities and her fate of being rejected by society. Though this is an ancient story, what does it have to do with us today? A lot. This story acts like a mirror, showing us how much impact our daily words and actions truly have. It reminds us that the power of speech is far more influential than we think. Every second, it is shaping our future. A single, thoughtless, biting joke might plant a seed that causes us pain later. But the opposite is also true. A heartfelt good thought or a kind gesture has the same immense power to change your destiny. Only by understanding this can we truly take responsibility for our own lives. The master who provided this story asked us a very practical question. Of all the words we speak every day, what proportion is creating the future we actually want? And how much might be unknowingly burying trouble for ourselves? Karma, or the law of cause and effect, is inherently neutral. It is fair. It can be terrifying. If you do bad things or say unkind words, they return to you. But at the same time, it is incredibly precious. Why? Because it gives us a key. It allows us to handcraft our own future through every thought, every word, and every action we take right now. The question is, which kind of future will you choose to create?